Ah, ok. Pues ahí es donde la última vez donde los vi.
Yeah, so we like
No sé
had
dónde.
like video where we like kind of
Ya. Y encontré el otro también, el que no había encontrado. Ya
All right, let's stand right here so they can see the entrance. So, so as I said, all of this area for years and years and years was a slum and a eyesore, blight on the city. And about 20 years ago, has anybody ever bought shoes from Zappos.com?
Yes.
Okay, the owner of Zappos.com and the founder of it, the creator of it, Tony C, spelled H-S-I-E-H, Asian name, he fell in love with Las Vegas. And he decided to move Zappos.com to Las Vegas. And he was not only into shoes and Silicon Valley stuff, he was one of the leaders of the Burning Man. You know, one of the guys who organizes Burning Man. He was a advocate for. He was a guy who enjoyed life. I'll put it that way. And he moved it here, and he liked it so much that he wanted to do two things. He wanted to build things here that would attract art to the city and attract artists and writers to the city, and he also wanted to build things that would attract more businesses to the city, and especially Silicon Valley. He actually set out on a mission to move Silicon Valley to Vegas. He tried to get all his friends, you know, who had big Silicon Valley companies to move. I mean, I think this is more interesting than those counties that they live in that are south of San Francisco. But you know, anyway, he thought this was a better place for labor, better place for having your people. So he started all these projects. He bought the old City Hall building, moved his company into that. He created a bunch of foundations and stuff. He started building things. One of the biggest things he built was this container park. They take the containers that are used on container ships and railroads, and they turn them into shops. He pioneered that idea. It's been done now in several other cities. As you can see, it's not thriving because of things I'm going to tell you after that. He created other. There were visiting writers from Africa and various people who they were paid to come here and work, and he was really doing some remarkable things for the city. And of course, the city loved him. The mayor was 100% behind him. And about, I want to say, I lose track of time, 6 or 7 years ago, while he was back in his hometown on the East Coast, he either overdosed or suicided. It's not clear, and so at a very young age, and all of this stuff in Vegas was sort of based on one man's vision, and so it kind of just faded away, and people went elsewhere. The container park stayed here, but like the other thing we're going to walk past as we pass the container park is that lot right there with the homeless people in it. You'll notice there's a brand new gate. You know, they had built the gate for whatever they were going to build on that 2-block stretch, but it was never built because Tony C died. And a lot of people that are in the IT business sort of jumped on him after he was dead. Said, you know, he lived a lifestyle that was, you know, that was going to hurt a lot of people and everything. But I think he was just. I think that's unfair to him. I think he was doing the best he could. So that's one of the many schemes that people have tried to establish in Las Vegas. And the Chamber of Commerce and the politicians of Las Vegas, they're ready for you. If you want to come here and build anything, if you want to create anything that creates jobs, if you want to but especially if you want to build something, they are ready. You know, you go to a lot of cities in America, they don't want you to build. They don't want you to build stuff. Come to Vegas. They are very happy to show you how you can build stuff, you know. And they treat businessmen like Tony C. They treat them like high rollers, and they kind of use the same techniques that you use on high rollers. I mean, as soon as a guy like that walks into Vegas, he's comped everywhere. You know, they know how to do that. They know how to sell Vegas. You may have noticed Allegiant Airlines. Did any of you come in on Allegiant Airlines? Well, because you probably come from cities that have regular plane service, right? Allegiant flies direct flights to Vegas from all different kinds of cities that you wouldn't, you know, Cedar Rapids to Vegas, direct, you know. And the reason is because the casinos invest in it. It's their airline, you know. And so anything that can affect, you know, whenever they build new casinos anywhere in the world, they have meetings. How does this affect us? How do we continue to get people to fly to the Mojave Desert to have fun instead of going to their local riverboat casino or going to someplace in Macau or someplace in Europe, you know? And they develop a way, some new stratagem to bring people here. In the 80s, it was in the 90s, it was we're going to make Vegas a family destination. 3 years later, they said, "Fuck that." You know, MGM built a whole amusement park behind the MGM Grand, and it's like nobody wanted to bring their kids here. They didn't ask for that. They didn't say, "I want to bring my kids to Vegas." No one said that, and so that's when they started the "Whatever happens in Vegas stays in Vegas" campaign. And because the message of that campaign is, okay, here's where you come to do adult stuff, you know, and that did work for them. And, you know, they were always running this fine line between sleaze and family and you know, and trying to like provide both. And the guy who hit the sweet spot, well, originally the guy who hit the sweet spot was Kirk Kerkorian, the Armenian business magnate. He's a corporate raider. He buys up stock and goes on boards and ruins companies, takes all the money. Anyway, he invested in the MGM Grand and some other properties in Vegas, and started bringing in entertainment type businesses that weren't just lounge singers and magicians. I mean, for years, all Vegas entertainment was lounge singers, magicians, topless babes. Those three things. Every show was one of those things. And Kirk Kerkorian kind of changed that, brought in some headliners, some people who were not like famous 40 years ago, that were like famous now. And so, and then the guy who really changed Vegas was Steve Wynn. In 1989, Steve Wynn built the Mirage Hotel with junk bonds. And Mirage Hotel was the first real luxury property that had been built in Vegas in years and years and years. If you came to Vegas in the 80s, everything was run down, the carpet was threadbare, cigarette stains everywhere, rooms weren't that great. I mean, you could still get a room for $10 a night, you could still get a free buffet, you could still get all that stuff, but it was not a real pleasant place to be unless you were a hardcore gambler and you didn't care. You know, and so their whole marketing was to hardcore gamblers. So in the 90s, they start doing, okay, we're going to be different. And that the one thing that made it possible for them to be different is they changed one law. They had a Nevada law that said if you have any ownership share in a casino, you must have a full FBI background check. You have to prove you have no ties to organized crime. So what that did is make it easy for organized crime to own all the hotels, because you just had to find about 3 people to be the front men for the hotel who were clean, and then, you know, keep all the money. And so obviously this wasn't working. The mob was still running Las Vegas. And so they passed a law that said you no longer have to, every stockholder doesn't have to have the background check, only the board of directors and the top executives. What that made it possible to do was sell stock on the New York Stock Exchange. Because now, if you own a piece of stock, you don't have to have the background check. You can own a piece of stock in the MGM Grand, and they can raise money on Wall Street. They don't have to raise money from the Teamsters Union or from, some mob enterprise. And so Steve Wynn pioneered that. And so he's building hotels with money that is raised in the stock market. And increasingly these stocks become worth more and more because these chains start developing where somebody builds riverboat casinos in Mississippi. Okay, let's buy a couple of those. And so the Vegas guy, that has the big checkbook, he goes to Mississippi, he buys a couple of casinos in Mississippi. So what Vegas did is they just sort of outsourced everything that they have, and they said, okay, we now no longer care where you gamble, we're going to own something there. So they own stuff in Macau, they own stuff in Illinois, they own stuff in, they're partners in Indian casinos in weird places. So what they said is, what the casino owners of the corporate guys in Vegas said is, it may be anywhere, but we still run it, motherfuckers. We still run it, and that's pretty much true. If you, I was the gambling reporter for United Press International for 5 years, and if you go in one of these casinos, if you have an appointment, let's say with the head of sales, at the Luxor or the marketing guy at the Mandalay Bay, they'll tell you, go in the casino and go to slot machine area 56. It has a big sign that says this. And you go and you stand by this slot machine, and the guy comes out from the wall, like the wall opens, and he says, over here. And you go in this secret door, and you're in the what do they call it? I guess the boiler room of the. It's not a boiler room, but it's like they call it the back room or whatever of the casino. It's just as big as the casino, but it just looks like an office with people in carols and stuff. And here's the guy talking to France, and here's the guy doing the high rollers that are coming in from China, and here's the guy doing this, and it's just this vast army of people working, but they're working on properties all over the world, and it just looks like any office setup. Except they have no windows. They have no windows because they never want the public to see this business part of the casino, and they don't eat in the casino restaurant. They have their own. The casino restaurant caters their lunchroom, and so if you work at the casino, you never actually show yourself to any casino guest, unless that's your job, And so, anyway, I'm just saying that these guys that run Vegas, they always know what they're doing. You can't, in my opinion, you can't beat them. Okay, we're going to walk up to. We're going to walk 2 more blocks to the Atomic Liquors Cocktail Bar, and I'm going to tell you a great story about this place. This place has a place in American history. So let's go up there. This is also Fremont Street is called the Boulder Highway. It goes all the way to Boulder.
Let's go.